Hello, 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 everybody. It's RB, your favorite realtor, and we are back. It is Realty Tuesdays. So, everybody knows the first Tuesday of the month, we're going to hop on with the whole real estate joining us to talk about all things real estate, right? So, that's going to be different topics that are trending or different information that'll be helpful. Hey, here goes one of the
Hello.
co-hosts. Hey, Lashika.
Hey.
Hey, Miss
Hold on.
Brandy.
Oh my.
Hey, y'all. So, for people who don't know, Realty Tuesdays, I guess I need to learn how to put that in the title. Realty Tuesdays is going to happen the first Tuesday of the month. So, set your calendars so that way you can tap in with us. We're going to be talking about everything real estate, everything ownership, everything to give you guys the gems that you need in order to be able to, here we go. Yay! I did it because
You did
I didn't know it
it.
was going to work.
What's up?
Wait a minute. Why am I so excited? I'm gonna tell you why. Because I don't know how to work this. So the fact that I just got everybody on is absolutely amazing. I'm proud of us. I think that this is a great start to Realty Tuesdays. So for those of you who don't know, right, we're coming on the first Tuesday of each month, and we're going to just introduce ourselves because you might have people that actually don't even know who we are, right? So I'm going to kick it off. I'm RB the Realtor, your favorite realtor, licensed in the state of New York, buy and hold investor on the multifamily residential side, and a landlord solely operating in the long-term rental space, which is going to be part of our topic for today. Lashika, passing it to you.
Hi, I'm Lashika Lewis. I'm an attorney based in New York. I do real estate. I help people close, buy, anything in regards to property ownership and deed transfers. And I'm here to inform you about how a lawyer could be essential.
Yes. Okay, Miss Francie.
Hello, my name is Brandy Sims, nationwide residential commercial lender. I am your money gatekeeper, helping you with understanding basically learning the game of finance and the language of finance, learning the rules and how they apply to you so that you can be successful in this process of trying to use other people's money to achieve your dreams.
Yes. Miss Rosa Allure.
Everyone. My name is Rosalora Lewis. I'm also known as Credit Goddess. I am all things credit, credit score improvement strategist, and a business credit coach. I help my clients to get in position for funding so that way we can build generational wealth. And it all starts with you, credit. So I'm here.
Okay. I'm gonna tell you why I'm super excited. Rose does not go on a live for anybody at all in the world. So the fact that we were able to get her on a live today, I'm so excited because she's such a wealth of information, and you guys don't even know the resource that she is. So I'm excited for this conversation. So let's kick it off because Realty Tuesdays is not an hour-long situation. It's kind of like a quick snippet of time that we're going to tap into different topics. And this topic is ownership. Everybody has been seeing all of these different things that have been kind of floating around Instagram and social media surrounding multifamily ownership, right? And anybody who knows me knows that's how I got my start. My claim to fame is purchasing a single family home, converting it into a multifamily while living there as an owner occupant, right? And having tenants help pay for not only my mortgage, but also my lifestyle. And I was able to leverage that to rinse and repeat and do it again. But in the news, there's been so much stuff happening where people have been in situations where they had their tenants basically try and get their property. And, we just want you to, one, know that although things like that are possible, there are ways to prevent that so that you can be safeguarded. And then not only can you be safeguarded, right? You can be in a winning position as a landlord. So we're going to start it from start to finish, right? Because before you even get to a multifamily, you need to have access to capital, right? And you also need to make sure that your financial profile is in tip top shape. So I don't know who wants to start first, but I'm a put it to the ladies on the left and the right beneath me. We we should start kind of breaking down what that looks like to have a good financial profile so that you can be, you know what, let's do that. Let's start with the credit worthiness so that you can be fundable. So what does that look like to be in the best position with your credit profile? Because not only do you need to be able to secure a loan, but on top of that, you also need to be able to have available resources financially when you get into the property in order to keep it afloat and to make sure you have whatever is necessary in case something comes up. So Rose, why don't you just tell us a little bit about what they should know?
Of course, of course. Well, Brandy is here, and I like to go and, piggyback off of her because every lender is different, right? They all have different requirements, and depending on what position that borrower is in will determine what type of loan product, because there's so many different loan products out there. So I don't want people to feel like they don't qualify. If you just check with Brandy, and see what program she has available, then then you will know at how you can position yourself. And this is when you come to me. So if Brandy say, listen, you are not in a position to borrow right now, maybe your DTI is too high, which is debt to income ratio, or you don't have enough credit. And this is where you will come to me, where if she say, hey, listen, you don't have enough credit profile, your credit profile is too thin, then I will tell you, you need to start building. And I like to talk about credit in the concept of relationships. So if you're going to Brandy now, she's big timer. She's going to give you the six-figure loan, 7-figure loan, but you need to have comparable trade lines or some type of trade line that would show how solid you are. And that's just being in the credit game long enough to show how well you can manage your bills, manage your debts, and that also shows credibility altogether. Credibility is just showing trust, but what lenders like to see is what you have done in the past 2 years. I like to say this, but Brandy may say, hey, we can take profiles at 1 year. Like, if you have a solid 1 year consistent payments, then she would say, okay, I'll take you on. But the longer the better, right? Mm-hmm. So you want to show how consistent you are in paying your bills. And I always tell people, it is not a credit problem that we all have. It's a money problem. All right. It's a money problem. A lot of us overextend ourselves. We spend more than what we can afford. And that becomes a problem, especially when you're trying to tap into, starting your own business, or even owning your first home, or even owning a second home. And I know we're talking about multifamily, right? So this is a large purchase. So you want to show that you have the capacity to be able to do so. And that is one of the C's of credit. I like to talk about the C's of credit. Capacity is one of them, is if you're able to manage multiple debts. So I get clients that would have thin credit profiles, maybe like, let me say thin is like a $500 credit card.
Yeah, you can't really do much with that.
Can't even go to Jamaica.
Right. You're trying to borrow 6 figures. No. Right. So it does take a little bit more education on how do you level up to that. And, I offer that in my services. I teach you on how to optimize your credit profile and make your profile a little bit more attractive, where Brandy would say, you know what, I can lend to that, because at that capacity that he's already, or she is already showing, I can then, grant her the mortgage, and of course with the income as well. So first things first, I say, if you guys did not know that late payment is the most detrimental thing that you can do to your credit profile, is being late on your credit. I know a lot of us probably would say, you know what, that's just $35. I don't got it right now, I'm gonna pay it next month. That's not a good look, y'all.
Right.
Not a good look. Because if you can't pay $35, what makes you think you could pay $2,500 on a mortgage?
That's okay. True. Yeah.
Right. So even though we think that amount is, not a big deal, it's a big deal if Brandy was to take a look at it, because you're asking her for a mortgage that has a $2,500 payment, or maybe a $1,500 payment, whatever is affordable to you. But you don't want to reflect on your credit profile that you are late on your credit card bills, even on your student loans, because that's one of our oldest debts, right? And or even your car payment, right? So I would say today, if you're just finding out that late payment is the worst thing that you want to have in your credit profile. I'm not talking about collections. I'm talking about open, active accounts right
Mm-hmm.
now. You don't want to show that any late payments. If you are showing any type of late payments right now, get back on track. And that's starting with budgeting, right? And start paying on time, getting all those payments up to date. And then you want to show the next consistency for a year at least. Okay. For a year. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Get back on track. That way anything within the first year will not, penalize you, even though you may not get the best, program that you're looking for, the best interest rates and things like that, but at least get back on track, right? And then if you have any credit card debts, bring those balances down. If you want to see a jump in your score, this category makes up 30% of your score, which is about 165 points. You can get those points real quick if you just bring those balances down to 30%. I say ideally 10%, but the lower the better, because then you can increase your score. You don't need to come to me. Check your credit and see if you're overextended on your credit cards. Bring those balances down before the billing cycle. See a jump in your score just like that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Next thing, for those that have thin credit profile, what's also in that statement is that you don't have enough history. So for those are like, wait, like asking themselves whether they should get a credit card or not, don't wait too long, because the sooner that you start, the sooner your history starts. A year from today, April 2nd of 2025, you'll have 1 year of credit. So the longer you stall, the longer you're taking to
Now,
to
now,
build that
now,
history.
hold that for a second, because you're saying something that's true. Not only do they need it to show their credit worthiness, but then in addition to that, from the home ownership perspective, you don't know what's going to pop up once you get in there.
Mm-hmm.
So you do need that. I always used to have an emergency credit card when I first started out. That was for my Home Depot runs, my Lowe's runs. If I
Yep.
did have to get any kind of service provider like a plumber or electrician in there, of course they would be licensed and certified and all that stuff like that, and have to be able to accept a credit card as payment, because depending on what was going on that month, I may or may not have that liquid cash available.
Right.
So being able to have that is good, not only for establishing your credit, but then in addition to that, having that as a
Right.
resource for if something comes up when you have your home.
Yep.
So that's a
Oh
key
my
right
gosh.
there.
Imagine that, like if anything was, and I get this a lot where with people that don't have credit when emergencies happen, emergencies, especially when people are trying to save up. They say, what, I've been trying to save up, but every time I save up, something always happens. But imagine
Mm-hmm.
if you had a credit card, you can put it towards that and then make payments as you go, instead of having to disperse all of your funds at one
That's
time.
building your
That's
credit too, right?
Of
That
course
works.
it is. Of
See?
course it is. Because listen, and if you're using your debit card, I know there are some fintech companies which are online banking. They have debit cards where it will count towards your credit. But I'm talking about people that have accounts with major banks like Chase, Wells Fargo, and things like that. Your debit card is not helping build credit. So if you have a credit card, run those necessary bills through there and just pay it back. You want to show experiences that you know how to pay your bills on time. That is all a credit card is. It's a tool. It's not meant for you to spend because you have to use your funds to pay it right back.
Right.
It's an IOU system. Let's just call it that.
Yes.
It's an IOU system. So if you're gonna borrow, I'm gonna owe you back, and you're gonna. That's all it is. I don't want people to complicate it, but you want everything that you pay. We all adults, right? We're all adulting. That's all part of adulting. So we have bills to pay. Make it count. Get a
Yes.
credit card. Make it count. Pay those bills, and then show that you know how to pay it on time. That's all Brandy wants to
So
see.
now
That's all
that's
she
the
wants
first
to see.
step, and then we're gonna transition over into Brandy. So Miss Brandy Sams, lender extraordinaire. What do they need to know? Because we're talking about the topic of multifamily ownership, right? So if people are looking to get started, what are you looking for as a lender, for a person to do an owner occupied residential purchase?
So the requirements in terms of the type of property are not necessarily different.
Mm-hmm.
They're still going to be the basic categories, right? So you're going to look for cash flow, which would be your personal income. So what do you make? How long have you been making it? And how likely are you to continue to make it? Because at the end of the day, on the lending side, the goal is to provide you with the accessible tools, which is the loan, in order to fund the dream you have, which is the
Mm-hmm.
ownership, right? So we're going to look to make sure that there's consistency there, because ultimately the lender is in the business of lending you money for the things that you want so that you pay them back. The other part of that is definitely going to be credit. In terms of credit, it's more about, it is about the content of the credit, right? So if you have revolving debt or installment debt, if you have student loans, but it's also about how the combination of what's on your profile creates that scoring number, right? So that FICO scoring number is more so what lenders pay attention to. It doesn't necessarily matter to us if you have 5 credit cards or 2 credit cards. It does matter in terms of the time and the length of the history, though. The higher your credit score, the better, because it unlocks other options for you. Although you can have a lower credit score, it doesn't limit you necessarily. Some loan programs go down to 500. All, however, is connected to at what rate you get in terms of how much your payment is going to be, how much of a down payment you have to put up front, how much additional money that you need to have, which is called reserves, over and above the amount that you need for down payment plus closing costs. And it can also affect which loan options you have as well, right? So once you talk about credit, right, and it's not the highest score, it's not the lowest score, it's the one in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Once you talk about cash flow, how are you going to pay us back? Then you're going to talk about assets. So how much money do you actually have, right? What's the likelihood or what's the cushion time that you have to continue to make these payments? If you are someone who is scraping together the money that you need for down payment plus closing costs and you won't have anything left over, it's not that you can't get a loan, but what we're probably not going to do is maximize the amount of cash flow you have in order to determine the maximum amount of loans.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean in layman's terms? What it means is the tighter your budget, right, the lower the amount that you can get qualified for. That's
Yeah.
one. The lower your credit score, the lower the amount of credit that'll be lent to you as well. Because now, as somebody who has like an 800 credit score might be able to use 50% of their income. If you have a 500 credit score, you may only be able to get lent 30% of your income.
Mm.
You can make
Okay.
the exact same amount of money, but that credit score can be the differentiator between how much of your income can be utilized. So that can greatly impact it. But on the positive side, because the majority of my clients and the majority of people, if you didn't really realize, the average person these days has a credit score of 670 and above. So as Americans, we're
Really?
actually not, yeah, the average person in America actually has a 670. So, although some of the conversations are tailored to people who have a lower credit score, which is good, most of us actually don't.
Yeah.
Most of us have a good credit score and are continuing to improve, which allows us to leverage even more. But
Mm.
where you want to pay attention to, like Rose said, is not over leveraging, right? Not actually spending too much at the same time. Now, the other part of it in terms of the lending side is to realize that lenders are always going to be, especially for owner occupied, we are only going to look at your gross income. You live on your net income. So in between what I qualify you for and what you can afford may not be the same numbers.
Mm.
So my actual thing is to start with affordability first, right? When you're talking about multifamily, and I'll connect it to the multifamily, whether or not you're talking about a single family, a condo, a townhouse, start with affordability. If you can afford the payment, then the likelihood of default decreases by more than 50%. Not what can you
Okay.
get qualified for? What can you actually
Hold on,
afford?
hold on, hold on 1 second, Brandy. Can you pause right there for a second? Because as a realtor, this is like one of the most important things that I do try and kind of discuss and make sure that I highlight for the people that I'm working with is you might have a pre-approval. We're in New York now. So you might have a pre-approval for a multifamily for $1 million, right? If you have a pre-approval for $1 million, does that mean that you should necessarily start shopping for properties that are 9.99? Like, no,
No.
probably not. Look at what your monthly payment is. Look at what you are looking to produce from those different rental units that are in that property, and look at what the affordability is for you if you had to carry the whole note yourself, right? So you kind of have to walk it back a little bit. Just because you're approved for $1 million doesn't mean that you need to get a property that is costing $1 million. Now, for me as a realtor, that would be good for me to sell you something that's $1 million because my commission will be better. But the ethical human being in me wants you to not only purchase a property, but keep a property and be in a position to have that property, which Lashika is going to talk to you about for generations to come. So having an approval from Brandy is great. That does not mean that you need to use up every last dollar that they say that you qualify for. Please pay attention to what is affordable. And also, when specifically talking about multifamilies, right? Get a realtor such as myself to give you an idea of what those rental units are able to get in that
Produce.
area, to
Yes.
produce in that area, because that has everything to do with what you're going to be looking at coming out of pocket monthly. Now, in an ideal situation, you'll come out of pocket with nothing, right? But even if you have to come out with a low amount, you're trying to make sure that it's an income producing property. You're trying to make sure that you are able to manage it, even if a tenant is gone for some reason, because it does happen. Listen, I have 2 units right now, my rental properties that are vacant. And I'm not stressed because I paid attention to what my bottom line was, right? In those properties. So although I'm not happy about them being, vacant, I don't have to make a rash decision, which then I would have to reach out to my trusted attorney, Lashika, and be like, listen, somebody's not paying their rent. How do we get this situation resolved? So now I have the ability to be a little bit more selective because I am already in a position to be able to manage it independently. So when she's saying that, I just had to pause for a second because I think people get excited with this amount that they have. And I'm working with several people right now that are looking for multifamily properties and they want to spend every last dollar of that pre-approval. And I'm like, no, I think if you have a, ideally, right? Let's just say if it is $1 million, maybe you should start looking at 925
Maybe
or,
you
or,
should
or
actually
900
start looking at
or
700 and see what
possibly
you
less
can
than
do with
that.
that.
Because at the end of the
Right?
day, you want to still also, you need to have that room to negotiate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because if you're looking at something that's 900 or 950 or 975, you only have $25,000 to be competitive against all these other people that are looking for a property.
Right.
And I don't know if that's necessarily going to get you what you want. So you need to make sure that you're keeping that in mind too. So, Brandy, I just had to pause it for a second there because folks are out here thinking if they got $1 million pre-approval, let me spend every last dollar, less 50 cents
Well,
of that
uh,
$1 million.
the other challenge with that is, like I said, as lenders, we pre-approve you on gross, but you live on net. That pre-approval is also based on an estimated interest rate, right? And so, should interest rates shift and change in one direction or another, it could drastically affect your competitive edge that you may have in the marketplace. And so, it's important to deal with affordability first, because no matter what the rate is, if you can afford it, you can afford it. It doesn't,
Right,
if you can only afford it because of the interest rate, then you never could afford
Right.
it,
right,
right?
right.
And that's what a lot of people saw last year. That's what a lot of people saw in 2022. People were increasing their budgets, and now all of a sudden they are $50 to $100,000 more because that interest rate looks low. But at the same time, they could never truly afford the actual payment on a consistent basis. And so that's what you don't want to have. But here's where I was going with that in terms of the multifamily, right? So the good thing about affordability is that you can stay within the payment that you can afford that your budget allows. Now, once you go to look at a multifamily unit, right? We're talking 1 to 4 multifamily,
Mm-hmm,
not multifamily 5 and up.
mm-hmm,
So if on a single family house you qualify for 500,000, right? But if you're looking at this duplex, maybe this duplex is $650,000. That's above your initial 500,000.
right.
However, The duplex is rented out on one side for $3,000 a month.
Mhm.
Now you're with that income that's coming in, guaranteed, not guaranteed, but it can be considered with your actual qualification now, and that money can be added to your qualifying income, a portion of it. Like it's
Like
not
as
really a
additional
dollar for
income,
dollar.
right? It's counting
Yes,
as additional
as
income.
additional income, as additional gross income before we start doing deductions, right? So it's not truly dollar for dollar, but it's about 27.5% of it, right? Can be added to your qualifying income, which now takes your initial 500,000 qualification amount possibly up to 700, but the property's only 650. So now you're still under it,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And should that tenant continue to pay you the 300 the 30 excuse me the $3,000 every single month, then that helps reduce your ongoing cost on a monthly basis,
Mhm.
right? Now, as RB said though, one of the reasons and what we talked about initially, you need to have cash flow,
Yes.
right? The money that you have coming in. You need to have credit, right? That's going to talk about your character and your likelihood to pay it back. But we also started talking about assets. And within assets is the money you need for down payment plus closing costs, but additional money at the end, which is called reserves. When you're talking about multifamily, I would always recommend that someone make sure that they have 3 to 6 months of that payment set aside somewhere that they don't have to touch it. Whether or not that's going to be in your 401k that you can actually, pull out in the need, if it's in stocks, if it's in other investments, if it's in a CD, even if it's under your mattress, right? Like I'm not suggesting having mattress money, but some of us have,
Some people
some
do.
people have safes and you just need to have a quick cash, right? But
Mhm.
at least 3 to 6 months. If you can do a year, do a year. If you can do 2 years, do 2 years, right? The more money you have just sitting aside in the off chance that maybe the tenant decides that they want to buy a house too, that you can have to continue the affordability of your property is the best thing you can do, especially when you're talking about multifamily, because now you're not only having to take care of or be responsible for where you live, you also have to take on the ownership of being a landlord and the responsibility of being a landlord and making sure that they have a place as well, right?
Mhm.
And so, with that information, I know we were talking about protecting it because financing it isn't hard when you have all the things aligned.
Right.
But what you also want to make sure when you're going into it is actually protecting it. And so, then with that, I'm going to pass it on to my favorite attorney.
Hi,
The
everybody.
Chic, before you do, one of the things I just wanted to touch on with Brandy is
Sure.
also have making sure that you're looking in a little bit of a lower price point, because
Yes.
what if you want a seller's concession?
Yes.
And Lashika can kind of break down what that seller's concession is, but that's important because if you want to put some of that money that you had liquid and keep it in your pocket or keep it for your reserve, and you want to incorporate your closing costs, which is separate than your down payment, then you need to be looking at a price point that will allow the wiggle room,
Mm-hmm.
right, for you to be able to do so. And also, when we're hunting for properties, one of the things that you want to do is make sure that you're getting it at a good deal. And with an expert negotiator like myself, then that is very likely to happen, because if you get it below what the other properties are valued at in that area, that gives you a little bit of wiggle room to incorporate those closing costs into that loan. So I'm going to let Lashika, the licensed and barred
Well,
attorney. Mm,
as you say that though, what comes to mind when we were talking about before that I did fail to mention is another reason why you want to look at properties underneath your actual qualification amount was also to have the leverage and the ability to get properties that may need some improvement,
that's true.
because there are loans that you can take out at inception
Mm,
that will not only allow you to purchase a property, but it will allow you to renovate that property and bring it up to a different standard to improve and increase the value that you can more immediately leverage off of as well. So, what does that look like in the situation of $1 million? We were talking about $1 million pre-qualification and where should you start? Well, maybe you find a property that's a duplex and it's $700,000, but it needs $100,000 worth of work.
mm-hmm.
Well, you don't have 100 grand, or if you do, you don't want to use it.
Right.
It's one of the two. I either have it and don't want to use it. I have it. Well, one of the three. I have it and I will use it. I have it, don't want to use it, or I don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But in any of those situations, if you're under it, you can get all the way to $1 million.
Mm.
Right. So you buy it for 700,000. Your down payment is based on the sales price. Then you come back, the lender will give you an additional 100,000 on top of that to fix up the property, right? You need to get a scope of work and have a contractor lay out what's going to be done. Then once the appraisal is done, it will be based on all of the work that you're planning on doing to it. And say, what if after you do that 100 grand, not only is it not worth $1 million, but it's 1.2 million.
Nice.
Now, not only have you brought up a property to standard under the amount that you were qualified for, using the majority of someone else's money, you've also forced appreciated another 200 grand that you could potentially leverage off of later.
Mm-hmm.
That's money that you would not have been able to save necessarily in that same period of time, that you can do things like pay for kids' college, pay off debt.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying? Have a
Yeah.
wedding,
Right.
buy other property,
Right.
right? Start a business, right? Save for a nest egg. There are
Mm-hmm.
other things that you can do that the loan structure can help you do. And then once you do that, then we need to make sure we protect it.
Okay, so let's reset the room real quick. Reset the room like as if we were on Clubhouse. Okay, this is Realty Tuesdays. The first Tuesday of the month, we are going to be coming on talking about all real estate topics and just giving you some information. If you already have it, then that's great. But if you don't, then this will hopefully be some additional tools that you could keep in your toolbox. And if you are not following Lost Chica or Credit Goddess or Brandy Sams or NYS_realtor, make sure that you do so right now. Follow, and then also click that little alert button that's on the top. Don't pay attention to her throwing stuff in the air, but click that little alert button that's on the top, so that way you can make sure that you stay in the know of us. All of us that are on this live right now do a lot within the real estate realm and also in the entrepreneurial space, right? And we also help a lot of people, and that's the reason why we decided to come together, so that we could pour into our community just a little bit more and also be a resource, right? So follow us. And also, if you do have questions related to any of the topics that we're talking about or something that maybe we can help you with, don't hesitate to DM, because that is how we can help you on a one-to-one basis. So, Realty Tuesdays, Lashika, finally, girl, is going to get to you now. Tell them how they can protect this property so they don't end up in the news, please.
Yeah. So, I know what I talked about last time. Last time I talked about how you can have ownership. But
You
this week,
remember?
I really want to concentrate on how you guys can be better landlords.
Right.
So I know everyone saw what happened about 2 weeks ago, where the Queens landlord was arrested, and so was a few tenants that were squatters.
Yeah.
So if you live in New York State and you don't keep a close eye to your property, if you live anywhere in America, people will break into your property. They will try to occupy domain. Mm-hmm. And then, depending on who your legislators are, they have certain protections in there to help those people commandeer your property. So and you have to pay lawyers a whole bunch of money to get into court. So number one is, how does someone become a squatter? Well, they have to claim possession of your property for more than 30 days. Mm-hmm. So now, if you're a new landlord, old landlord, you have investment properties, number one, get cameras. Because guess what? Someone can lie and make a lease, right, but you can't lie if something's on camera. So get cameras to protect your property, so you know who's coming off and on your property. Get date stamps.
Wait. I just want to that right there is a gem. Please, and please do what Lashika's saying about that. On all of my rental properties, I not only have the cameras, it's date stamps, and it also takes a recording, a picture, a still, and sends it to file of anybody who's walking in the front, back, or side of my property. So yes, carry on. Just had to highlight that because that's a gem.
Yes, get the cameras, because it's very important. You want to know because guess what? If they haven't been there for more than 29 days, officer, trespasser, absolutely, arrest them. I'm in fear of my life. In addition to cameras.
Fear of the life.
Yes. Regardless if you live in the state or not, if you don't have the time to do it, get someone, a groundskeeper, to do weekly checks.
That's
They don't
it.
have to do daily checks, but do weekly checks. You want to do weekly checks because the biggest thing is, I think about how someone's going to beat me. People lie and they manipulate it, and the court system is allowing people too long to get to a trial.
That's true.
So if you don't have someone checking on the property to say, hey, I was here on week 1, I didn't see anyone, I checked the house, I took pictures, there were no property, there was no one else's possessions there, I checked on week 2, that makes for a viable witness and a credible witness.
Right.
Number 3, get to know your neighbors. Depending on what community you live in, the neighbors are going to get the squatters out before the actual
And
landlord gets
Yeah.
them
they'll
out.
call you and tell you
Yes,
about it. So exchange numbers
yes,
with your neighbors if you're
yes.
not there.
So whether it's a Karen or a Ken, or you might have a Gemma or a Michelle, or you might have a Dwayne and Tommy,
I got an
get all their
Annie.
numbers, okay?
I got Annie's number on speed dial.
Get, get their numbers, because it's very important. If you can't make it out there, you want someone saying, hey, I saw this white person in your yard, and I know you're a black family, what's going on? Or I saw this black man in your yard, and you're a white family, what's going on? You want someone nosy, so this way, if you do have squatters on your property, they can let you know, so you can go over there with the cops like, hey, there's a trespasser.
Right.
Now, the reason why this is important is because depending on what's going to happen with current legislation in the next couple of months because of the election, right now, after 30 days, squatters have rights. And then you have to take them through the court process to kick them out.
Oh,
Now, let me tell you about
So
what's messed up
sad.
about your New
let me
York
let me
City
ask you
court.
a question. You just said have people check on it.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that people don't teach you, and this is as a multifamily owner, and I had to kind of navigate through this with no YouTube university and no mentors and definitely no clubhouse or anything like that, right? One of the things that I even do, like told you, I have a couple of vacant units in some of my multifamilies. I have those light timers that
Mm-hmm.
go off at certain times. I'm not gonna tell y'all where my properties are because y'all not gonna know. But I have the light timers that go off at different times. Literally, you can set it for like it to come on for an hour, go off, come on for another hour, and in the different units. So that way, it gives the appearance from the outside in that there are people that
Somebody
are
there.
that you're turning on and off the light. You can do the same thing if you have a television. You can do the same thing if you have a radio. You can do the same thing with all of that. It gives the appearance. Also, one of the things that I've had happen on properties that were vacant, every once in a while, even if we didn't actually have people there or work going on, I would have somebody drop off a bag of garbage
Yep.
in front of the property, so that way it would give the appearance that somebody's there. And that's important because people do stuff to properties that they feel don't have any kinds of activity or any kind of back and forth. If they know that there's something going on there, then they'll be less likely to try and break in and do something like that. They could never do anything to a property that has somebody going back and forth, whether it's
Exactly.
around the perimeter or in and out. But those couple of little tricks are helpful because I know for me, I used to be like, gosh, they're seeing these lights off all the time. Somebody's going to try something. Even if they're not trying to squat, they're going to try and break in because they don't see.
Something.
And some people leave, their property for like the season. Like people might leave New York and go down south for the winter and then come back up. How do you prevent somebody from trying to try it,
Yep.
right? Get those lights. Very good tip. The
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 camera.
cameras, like Lashika said, very
They
good
even
tip.
Yeah.
have those.
The
They even
garbage truck,
have those.
very good trip.
They have those. What do you call them? Like when somebody gets close up to the door, it sounds like a dog's barking.
Those type of
Oh, yeah.
things, all things, yeah, they have all sorts of different gadgets, but the
Oh.
point is it has to kind of come across as if there is somebody living there. Lashika, you were saying some other things. I was going to ask you, if somebody's not living there, because this is kind of what's floating around social media right now, if somebody's not living there and you do have an entity like an LLC, can you create a lease from yourself to the LLC for that period of time that it's not occupied? Because someone had mentioned that, and I'm not sure legally
So
how that fares in like New York. You know what I mean?
the biggest thing is you can create a lease from your entity, but if your property's vacant and someone else gets in there and they acquire the squatter's rights, you have a lease that isn't effective. And you have a
If you have a
squatter
lease
who has rights.
before that predates that, is what I'm saying. It's like
Yeah,
somebody's in
because
there.
let's say if you have the lease, right, but you don't occupy the property
Right,
and you don't do the steps that we told you to
right.
do, and you let a squatter get in there, they acquire their rights. So you have this lease, and then you have the squatter who has rights.
whose lease is more weighted in the court of law?
It doesn't matter about whose lease is more weighted, because how did the squatter get possession if you had an effective lease?
Because
You have
I
a
was away
duty.
for a
Yeah.
week or two. Like, you know what I'm saying?
So look,
If I
no,
present that to the
remember,
police, is
the
what I'm saying.
squatter gets rights after 30 days.
Mm.
So if it's before the 30 days and you have your lease, yes, you say trespassing.
Okay.
But if it's after the 30 days and you have your lease, well, now your landlord is the one with the issue, where both tenants will be able to sue. Well, not both tenants, because one's a squatter, right?
Mm.
But you as a tenant, your rights are being infringed upon
Right.
because you have this squatter in your possession. So it's kind of tricky when you're the landlord and you're the self tenant.
So what I guess, like, so for instance, one of the things that I was talking about, like when everybody had Airbnb, right? I used to have short-term rentals. Now only deal with long-term rentals. I had short-term rentals, and so I had a LLC
Mm-hmm.
that acted as property management for those short-term rentals. I had to create a lease
Mm-hmm.
from the owner to the LLC so that the short-term rental business could operate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if there was a lease, right now, those people were transient, right? They were coming back and forth, but the leaseholder was the LLC.
Mm-hmm.
So if I know that it's going to be vacant from tomorrow, should I
Mm-hmm.
then, as a new landlord, and that's what I'm asking for somebody who has no idea, should I make a lease, out from that day that I know that it's going to be vacant until, for a year, let's just say a year term, just because I don't know what will happen if somebody does try and come in and then squat on my property? I guess that's the
You
question.
can do that, but if you let them acquire the squatters' rights, it doesn't matter. You get what I'm saying?
Mm,
Once they get the 30 days, the landlord still has to go to court to get them out. So now this is the thing about it, right? So what's your situation?
mm,
Let's say that you rented it to you're the owner, right?
right.
Brandy owns the LLC that you rented it out to, and Brandy does the short-term rentals.
Hmm.
Now, Brandy, she has a break in her short-term rentals, but she still owns the LLC. Now, squatters occupy. I'm the squatter. I occupy the
Why are you the
property.
squatter? Go ahead.
Does
Go
she
ahead.
know her rights?
She
Does
Yeah.
always
she
sees it.
know her
The
rights?
joke is you've never seen her and I do a live seminar. Like, we have the real estate financial literacy summit coming up on April 13th. She always makes me the heir or beneficiary, or either she kills me off and somebody is going to be inheriting property from you. So like these examples that Lashika gives are like ridiculous.
But I
Like, but I
give
love it.
before
But
I take.
squatters know their
Yeah,
rights. She
I
knows her
give
rights.
before I take, right? I made her a millionaire one time. Well, I'm gonna make you a millionaire now.
Can you?
RB's a millionaire.
Thank you. I
She owns
received
all
that.
these properties.
Yes.
Brady's doing her thing with the upcoming rentals. Okay. And now she has her LLC. So now, let's check this. Brandy, I was one of your short-term renters, right? And guess what
Okay.
I said? I'm a traveling lawyer. I got a new boo in the state. I'm staying here,
Sounds
Brandy.
like you. Well, not the staying here, but
Yes,
the boo.
exactly.
Oh my
Now,
God.
Brandy, you're doing your thing and you're very busy.
Right.
You don't realize that I held over in your rental property until the 31st day.
Right.
Now,
Because I'm supposed to be moving you beforehand every time you
exactly.
go into. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Now, you go to RB and you go, well, hey, RB, we have this squatter. And they're infringing on my leasehold rights, right? Well, now RB, if she was me, she would go, well, Brandy, that's technically your squatter because you were subleasing. You're putting
Right.
yourself out there. You were subleasing, right?
Oh,
But let's say if you weren't subleasing, let's say if Brandy just went on a vacation, right? The landlord still has an issue where Brandy, you can't technically go back in your property. It'll be a legal eviction. You'll get arrested, and if the landlord assists you, he'll get arrested because I have squatter rights.
Mm-hmm.
I have squatter
It's
rights right now. It's
so
past the 30
crazy.
days, okay?
so how do
That
we prevent it though? Is what I
so
guess what I'm asking is that.
that's what I'm saying. The lease part, like I know they say, oh, you do the trick with the lease. No, what I'm telling you is I'm a squatter. If I'm don't let an attorney be a squatter because I'm running all these
So
okay,
so
that's why no one wants to
so
rent
we
with
don't want
you.
to scare the people. So like,
No, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
so the goal
No,
is
but you
go into
prevent
your
it
property.
by you have your
Yes.
cameras.
Yeah.
You're periodically going over there.
Yes.
You want to show proof that you've been going over there so no one can say within 30 days that they have been able to have possession of your property
Okay.
without you knowing, okay? So you're going over there. The first sign, even if you see stuff inside of your property and you see no one, you call the cops. Hey, I think I have some potential
Okay.
trespassers. You want to start documenting this so you don't let them get their
Right.
rights. After 30 days, they have their rights. You got to take them to court. And then that becomes a long process. Now, What's also important is that we're voting. There's a legislator who's trying to change the law to make it 45 days in New York
In New
for them to have
York
them.
right now, at this point in the city, or are you talking about the
In
outer boroughs like
New
Nassau,
York, it's a
the
state
state?
assembly person, so it would just be
Oh,
all over New York. It
okay.
will be 45 days because they know that
That would be
sometimes
good.
people go on vacation for a whole entire month. And if
Right.
you go on vacation a whole entire month and you come back, well, now they're giving you a little 15 days extra
Mm-hmm.
to call the cops and to make to not let them become a squatter.
What
That
happens
that would
Now,
be good.
to the legislators that are trying to prevent squatters from having rights at all? Because how is it that I can break into your property,
mhm.
Right.
right? Uninvited,
And call them.
unwanted.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a
But
Well,
I
problem.
just think that's why it's important for us to
yes,
vote. That was my only point.
and
It's
also
Yeah.
too,
important to
squatters
vote.
vote too. I know a squatter right now that's
Well,
voting.
they're
She
legal
just voted in the
citizens.
primary
So
presidential
so
election.
so let's because this is the Real Tea Tuesdays about real estate, and we don't want to start complaining about these squatters because we know that there's some people that's doing the wrong thing. We want to make sure you're doing the right thing, and the
It
right
doesn't
thing
happen
is
as often as
it
people
doesn't. It
think anyway.
really
At
doesn't.
the
But
end of the
it's
day,
like a hot topic right now, just because of the
yeah,
fact that
it
somebody
doesn't
got in
really
trouble.
happen a lot. Like
No,
we have generational properties, between everyone that's here, and the likelihood, yes, some people saw it in COVID, right? But that was such an anomaly that we're out of COVID, that a lot of legislation is changing, that people are more well equipped, that information like this is coming on social media so people know what to do. So
right,
it's still nothing to necessarily be afraid of. At the end of the day, information breeds clarity,
yeah,
right? It shines a light. There is no boogeyman behind closed doors about being a multifamily unit owner,
right.
but it's about bringing to light the information, the responsibility that we all have to do in every aspect of our life. It doesn't matter if we're talking about crossing the street, driving a car, having a job, or owning real estate. At the end of the day, it's a process. There are things that as you learn, you will get better with. There's a team that you need to make sure that if you don't have the information, that you connect with that team to help fill in the gaps where
Right.
there may be some for you. And then what you need to do is beyond any fear and that you may have, you need to move forward, because what's on the other side of that is so much more beneficial for you, your family, your last name legacy, than it is to sit back on the
And
sidelines.
let's get to that part. So as a realtor, and actually realtor was the second piece, right?
Mhm.
The first piece was investor. So many moons ago, I just did not feel like it was a part of my ministry to pay somebody else's mortgage. I just didn't feel comfortable about that. And y'all know I like nice places and nice things. So my rent, some people have said that at least. So my rent was ridiculous. And as I started kind of unpacking what my finances were monthly, I was realizing how much of a chunk of that was paid to living expenses that I could never, ever recover, recoup, or leverage or get anything out of it. It just was going out of my paycheck, right? Out of my bank account into somebody else's bank account. And I did have in exchange for it a nice residence. So there's nothing wrong with renting. But for me, at that point, I was like, the jig is up. I got to do better. And the reason why is because I wanted to amplify my lifestyle and create additional streams of income and have less of what I was doing to live this lifestyle that I like come out of my paycheck and not have to worry about overtime and not have to worry about trying to hustle and bustle. But I wanted to do what people call, what is it, making money in your sleep and get mailbox money? I wanted that. Right? Because that sounded cute, right? That along with sparkly dresses and traveling and things
And
like that.
first,
You know, right?
Now,
First,
shoes.
so, and shoes. Oh, I didn't. I didn't. Okay. Well, yeah. So, along with that, I wanted to be able to do those things, and I couldn't see it happening at the time with my 9 to 5 in a realistic way without me being super tired and having to take extra naps from all of this work that I was doing. So, all of that to kind of bring it back is the reason why we come on social media, the reason why we do the Financial Literacy Summit that you guys need to be signed up for. That's happening on April 13th, 2024, which is not this weekend, it's the following weekend in person in collaboration with Citibank in Freeport, Long Island. We're bringing it your way. The reason why we're doing those things is because we want you guys to have all of the information that you need so you feel less discouraged and more empowered to sit in the ownership seat. And all of these things that you see that could be so scary that people do for clickbait, when they are highlighting this one landlord that got arrested when she knew she was going to get arrested, but she was in her feelings. So instead of calling her attorney and getting advice, I would have been on the phone with Lashika. Had something like that happen and say, what's next? What do I do? Because in real life, I want to wait outside and handle it on some New York time, right? Can't do that.
And also,
Can't do
And she would have told
you don't
you,
do
don't
anything
do
on
that.
camera. Like,
at
she wasn't
all.
making a
Right.
TikTok, so you're doing
See,
an illegal eviction.
right. So my point being is that you're seeing a lot of these things happening and coming up because it's getting people more viewers. But then what
Yeah.
it's also doing, especially within our community, is fear mongering. It's having people say, see, that's why I don't want to buy. See, that's why I don't want to own no property. See, that's why I'm going to keep renting because I don't want to have to go through that. Because if it was me, I would blah, blah, blah. Yes, got it. If it was you, you would be upset. But if it was you, you would be happy if you were getting $10,000 a month in rent and your paycheck got to sit in your account. And now you could pay for trips, cash, cars, cash, whatever cash, or use your credit because credit is king. So Rose will tap in with y'all about that, how to build that. But the point is it's so important to put the proper information out there because while stuff like that does happen, it's on poor decision making that it happens.
Yeah.
So as a landlord that has been doing this thing since 2003, never ever had I, where's the wood? Because I swear, never ever had I had somebody try and do some foolery like that. And it's not because I'm lucky. It's because I'm so on top of my business and I'm so on top of my properties. And if I know that they're vacant, even on the way home from going to dinner with my girlfriends or whatever the case is, whatever I'm doing, I'm driving through the block. If I have a little bit of time, I'm going to do exactly what I'm going in there. I'm running the water. I'm putting on a light or two. I'm having activity because people do watch, right?
Yeah.
And it might be a little bit annoying, but in the interim, while there's not somebody there, those are the things that I could do to protect myself so that somebody can't lay up for 10, 15, 20 days, so that's just in case Annie or Tommy or any of my neighbors don't call me out and say something is happening.
Or
So
get the cameras. The
I
same way we can scroll
have
through
cameras,
Facebook.
Lashika. I have cameras. It picks up every time the mailman comes, but if you're not paying attention to it, and you're not paying attention to your property, that's the thing. So don't be afraid of what you're seeing in the media. Don't be afraid of ownership. Don't think that is such a cumbersome and overwhelming thing because I'm going to tell you something. When I purchased that single family, before I converted it, I had a mortgage of a couple of $1,000s, right? A month, which was less than what the rent was that I was paying in this nice space in a really swanky area that I was living in, right? But then once I converted into a multifamily, when I rented out one apartment, I only had $400 towards my living expenses that I had to pay a month. When I rented out the other apartment, now I had a profit. I was living like a person that was doing not so legal things because I had all of this flow of money coming in. And on top of that, my paycheck, I didn't really know how to act. Then that's when I had to speak to somebody for them to explain to me what to do with this excess money. So saying all of that to say, arm yourself with information. Don't feed into the hype of the clickbait that everybody's talking about. Come to seminars, tap in with experts, get yourself a team. Because this is really what this is. Like, we're friends in real life, but we're also a team. That friendship was based off of business.
Right.
Brandy does her thing and owns properties in real life, and she's an expert lender in real life. Rose is a credit and financial expert, and helps you get everything for your business and your personal together. Lashika, in real life, is a bar attorney. And like we talk about things and we also go to karaoke upon occasion. But at our favorite minority owned business. but at the
In
same time,
Freeport.
in Freeport, where the financial literacy seminar is gonna be. So but in real life, we're all business people and we all lend support to each other. So when you surround yourself with people that are like-minded, that are doing the same things, that are positive, that are having conversations about how we could level up, how we could come up, and this is how you protect yourself along the way and how you position yourself along the way, then you could talk about, hey, I got this one house. Brandy, how do I leverage this one house to get to the next? Oh my goodness, Rose, I got this one house. How can I access different lines of credit so that I can
Right.
be my own bank or either finance my own repairs? Okay, Lashika, I'm getting into this landlording thing, and I have this lease that I brought from Staples. But what can I include in it to
Start
really make sure? Because people,
Staples.
this is a thing. This is the thing. People go to their realtor and they get that standard state lease, and nothing wrong. No shade to Staples. Have no issue with the
So
business. But there's different things that you can do to safeguard yourself, and you won't know that unless you get the information. So with that being said, follow these people that are on this live. We're here once a month on Realty Tuesdays, and we'll be talking about all sorts of things. Come say hello to us in person. You're gonna have two opportunities next week. Well, not for Rose and Brandy. I'm so sad. But for me and Lashika,
that's
two opportunities.
okay.
Yes,
We'll be
we gonna
there
be in
in
the spirit. I'm gonna be on
spirit.
FaceTime with her. Like, look,
Yes.
bestie, look at
Yes.
so, and Rose, you coming through next time? We need you to come up here from Florida. But you have two opportunities next week at the rooftop for our networking event on April 11th, and then at the Financial Literacy Summit on April 13th. And those things are free of charge. This live is free of charge. Why are we doing it? Because we want more people from our community to get in the ownership seat so we can have these high level conversations and we can build together. It's like, it's not cool if you have all the information and everybody else is standing still. We want to
Right.
have collective forward movement. And that's what this is about. We were in Women's History Month, so I would have raised my fist, but I can't because now we're in April. However,
We're in Family History Month. It's all about being a
is
family.
that what it
And what do
is?
families do? They look out for one another, they protect one another, they admonish each other if necessary, but they mostly uplift, encourage, support, and they pay it forward.
She's so smart. She said admonish. I like that. Okay. but So, guys, Lashika, how can they reach out to you if they want to get in contact with you for any legal consultation?
So you guys can click the follow me, and I'm very personable. You can DM me. My page has contact information. Or yeah, or I'll put my phone number, my office number in the chat.
Okay.
Hold on.
But make sure you're
Much.
following her and turn that notification bell on. Rose, how can they reach you, lady?
We can't hear you, honey.
You know what? I was
Oh,
responding on mute.
We didn't hear any of that.
Nothing. Wow. Okay, so you guys can reach me at this link. You guys can back message me or DMs or what we call it on Instagram.
It's
See,
a
I'm
DM.
so
Oh
I
my
don't
gosh,
DM. It's
right?
the DMs. It's the
DM.
DMs.
Okay, DM me on this profile here. Also, I am going to be launching a Done With You credit class. So for those that are like, I want to do it myself, good for you because it is recommended that you do it yourself. I mean, coming from a credit person, I would prefer and I encourage you to do it yourself. But
Mm-hmm.
I would do it with you because there are things that sometimes you can just ruin your credit profile. So I am going to be opening up registration for that. It's going to be a group session, not one-on-ones. I deal with a lot of clients, so this season I am going group sessions. So those
Nice.
for that's learning a group, let's do that. You guys can, I'm going to put the link to my Facebook group because that's where the registration is going to be.
Uh-huh.
And you guys can link up with me there. And I'll also put the link to my phone number where you can text your email address. Get started
She
with
got
that.
all the
But get
links,
your
y'all.
credit up, y'all.
She got
Get your
all of
credit.
it.
Get your credit up, y'all. And it's not a credit score. It's about you. It's not a money problem. It's not a credit problem. It's a money problem.
Yes.
So let's learn financial literacy and learn how to play this game
Yes.
so we can tap in and build generational wealth with other people's money.
All right now. So Brandy, how can they reach out to you, Miss Ma'am?
no problem. On Instagram, it is at Beyond the Close, and I put that in the chat as well. Not Brandy Sam's. It's actually Beyond the Closes business. Loanswithbrandy.com if you're looking for financing. And I'm also on YouTube and TikTok.
Hey.
Hey. And so, for you guys who don't know me, one, you should be following each and every one of us, but you can click above, right? And you can tap on our profiles. I'm NYS_realtor, affectionately known as RB the Realtor. And you can either DM me if anything, or you can go to rb10k.com to set up a consultation and to talk all things real estate, and also to stay in the know of the things that we have going on. And one of which, again, to repeat for those of you who just joined, April 11th, we have our Real Estate and Entrepreneur Networking event where we'll be giving you complimentary dinner, courtesy of our amazing sponsors. Italian dinner will be served, as well as complimentary professional headshots, so you can update your LinkedIn, your Instagram, your business cards, your websites, and all that good stuff. And in addition to that, on the 13th, come and say hi to me and Lashika. Me, Lashika, she the three. We have a CPA, Adrian, that's going to be there. We have Onaje's flying in, Brandy.
Is
Onaje
he?
is going to be there. He's
Oh,
coming
Oh,
in.
nice.
Najee, if you're on here, I want lunch.
Onaje is flying in, so he'll be coming up from Houston, and then Los is coming up here too, and
Nice.
Candace from Chicago. Yeah, so we're gonna have all of those folks in the building for those events, and you want to connect with us, and we want to connect with you. So tap in, tap in, tap in. Make sure if you're not following us that you start right now. If you're watching it on the replay, go to rb10k.com so you can register for those events. And we have some interesting things that are going to be coming up, and especially in the month of June, which is going to be home ownership month. Some very big things are going. So you want to make sure that you stay tuned in. So press that bell on the top. And we'll see you guys next Tuesday, the first Tuesday of each month, right? We're going to see you for Realty Tuesday. So I hope you guys enjoyed the information. We can't wait to connect with you again. See you next week at the events. All right, y'all. Have a good one.